First thing we're going to do is paint the main part of the mason jar. We're going to do this with a color called Haint Blue. Take your spray bottle and mist your piece and mist your brush to get them damp. This will help the paint to move smoother. Paint the jar with the Haint Blue and then dry it with the hair dryer and then give it another coat. Since this is such a light color, you may need to give it a third coat. Just make sure that you dry it in between. Now we're going to paint the center of the daisies. Both of these places are labeled with the number 2. You're going to take the color called Daisy, which is yellow, and paint both of these places with this yellow. After you paint the first coat, dry it with a hair dryer and then give it a second coat. Now we're going to color all of the places that are labeled with the number 3. These are the petals of the daisy. We're going to use a white, which is called cotton, to color our daisies. So take your cotton and paint all of the places that are labeled with the number 3. After you finish giving it your first coat, dry it with a hair dryer. Since this is such a light color, you will probably need to give it a second or possibly a third coat. Now we're going to paint both of our succulents. You're going to start with a color called Farmhouse Green, and you're going to paint all of the places that are labeled with the number 4 with Farmhouse Green. Again, this is a light color, so you may need to dry it and give it a second or possibly third coat. Now we're going to paint all of the places on the succulents that are labeled with the number 5. We're going to use a green called kudzu. So take your kudzu and paint all of the places that are labeled with the number 5. Now we're going to paint the center of the succulent. We're going to use a color called Lucky Lavender. So paint all of the places that are labeled with the number 6 with the Lucky Lavender. After finishing, you're going to do the exact same thing that you did on this succulent with the second succulent by using the farmhouse green, the kudzu, and the Lucky Lavender. The last thing we need to paint are the leaves. So you're going to take a color called Evergreen and you're going to paint all of the spaces that are labeled with the number 7 with your Evergreen. These may take a second coat, so dry with the hairdryer and give them a second coat if needed. Now we're going to take a black Sharpie brush and we're going to outline all of the places on the shape that are etched into the wood. So take your black Sharpie brush and outline in all of these etched places. This is a Sharpie brush, not a Sharpie marker, so you do not need to bear down really hard. The last thing is to give your mason jar highlights. You're going to do this with white paint. I like to use a small flat angled brush so that I can get thin lines. You're going to take your brush and your paint and you're going to add highlights in places where it would naturally have highlights. If you're not sure or not comfortable where to put these highlights, you may look at ours for an example.